Good evening and welcome to the January 15th meeting of Glendale City Council. May we have the roll call, please?
Council members Agajanian,
Present.
Devine,
Here.
Garpetian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Sinanian.
Here. May we have, today's flag salute will be led by Councilmember Agajanian.
Please say with me the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be delivered by Pastor John Aitken from Livingstone Seventh-day Adventist Church of Locker Center.
Let us bow our heads. Lord God, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to be here. Bless this council, give wisdom. Thank you so much for the community and everyone involved. Thank you, Lord, and we ask that we do the right things always. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. May we have the report, please?
The agenda for the January 15, 2019 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Friday, January 11th, 2019 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. What's next, please?
Next is presentation and appointments. At 3 is the agenda preview for the meetings of Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. Mr. Mayor and Council, the meetings for the Housing Authority and the City Council for January 22nd, 2019 have been canceled. The next regular meetings are scheduled for January 29th, 2019.
Thank you, sir. And next?
Next, at 3B is a proclamation designating January 13, 2019 as the 16th anniversary of Korean American Day.
Very well. And we have some guests who will be receiving a proclamation or two proclamations from the City Council and from the Mayor. I'd like to invite you up. Mr. T.C. Kim.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr.
evening.
Honorable Mr. Mayor and all the council members. My name is T.C. Kim, President of the Korean American Foundation of Glendale. It's my honor and privilege to stand before you for 6th year now, celebrating Korean American Day with you. And here with me, here to support this event, we have representatives from Korean American Federation of North Los Angeles that represent 10 cities, including Glendale, including Ted Choi, who is present there. And I would like to now bring in someone to represent the Korean government from Consul General's office, Consul Mr. Ryu.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councilmen. I'm very humbled and privileged to stand before you, the member of City of Glendale. So, on behalf of the Korean government, I would love to appreciate the resolution of by the City of Glendale on the 116th Korean American Day. As you are well aware, since the first Korean immigration made up their footage on Hawaii 116 years ago, the Korean community has developed in various ways, contributing to the United States and also playing a bridging role between the United States and the Korea. And the Korean government highly appreciates the importance and devotions of Korean communities in Los Angeles areas, especially in the city of Glendale. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Council. And would you like to introduce all the other guests as well, Mr. Kim?
Sure. Ted Choi, the President of the Korean American Federation of Los Angeles, and the staff and officers of the Federation. I also invited some youth group, but then I heard, it's kind of raining hard today. Just wanted to add that the Korean American Day is also a day to celebrate also It's a day to recognize the contributions Korean Americans have made in the following the American dream. And we have over 10,000 Koreans living in Glendale area, over 700,000 in Southern California. They're very hard workers. They represent the zeal, the hard work, the efforts, education, mind, and they try to make contribution in this society. I wanted to share with the next generation that how important it is for us to remember our immigrant history, heritage, and to learn to collaborate and work together to improve our lives and for the places that we live and work. And I wanted to also emphasize that this is a time to reinforce the friendship between American community and also Korean American community, and to share our appreciation to each other. And I wanted to emphasize all that, and thank you. Mayor?
Thank you. And we want to always show our appreciation for the Korean American community, especially those that reside in the city of Glendale. And it's a joy to be able to celebrate this day with you every year. And I have a proclamation that I would like to read into the record before I hand it to you. And it states, whereas Glendale and its adjacent cities are home to approximately 700,000 Korean Americans, the largest concentration of Koreans outside of the Korean Peninsula, and whereas the history of Korean immigration to America began as 102 courageous Korean men, women, and children ventured across the vast Pacific aboard the SS Gaelic to land in Hawaii on January 13, 1903, marking this year as the 116th anniversary of their arrival. And whereas they did not falter in their pursuit of the American dream, but through tenacious efforts and sacrifices established a new home in a new land and educated their Korean American children. And whereas while the first Korean immigrants fought for the freedom and independence of the motherland, their children grew up to be patriotic American citizens, served in the armed forces of the United States since World War I, and made other important and significant contributions to the economic vitality in the United States. And whereas, in search of better opportunities for their children, a multitude of dynamic Koreans joined the increasing flow of immigration to the United States, and with diligence, fortitude, and a strong belief in the American dream, these immigrants turned depressed areas into thriving communities and raised their children as productive Korean Americans. And whereas, as the community enters a new era of friendship between Korea and the United States, we must instill in the future generations proper appreciation for the courage and value of their ancestors, a deep sense of their historic roots, and pride in their own cultural heritage, so that they may better contribute to the great nation, rich with ethnic and cultural diversity. Now, therefore, I, Zara Sinanyan, Mayor of the City of Glendale, joined by the Glendale City Council, proclaim January 13, 2019 as the 16th anniversary of Korean American Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm going to hand this.
Two copies, right? This way. What, Councilor, would you like to join us? Come on. As long as it goes in print.
One of those damn commissioners.
Okay, that's fine.
Was your eyes open?
I don't know.
Right, yeah, to right, and then the next.
Okay. What's next, Mr. Clerk? Next on the calendar is, on the agenda is consent items, including minutes. 4F has been pulled, and there have been 2 cards submitted by members of the public audience for 4E.
Okay, let's pull up both items then.
Well, 4F is coming off, and
Sorry?
4F is coming off. We're going to bring it back at a later date.
Oh, staff is pulling it
Yes.
off. Okay, well then pull out 4E so that we can hear our residents.
Would you
I'll
like
make the balance of the consent calendar.
Thank you. And the following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed. Motion was made by Councilmember Najarian.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmembers Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Sinani.
Yes. 4E, please.
4E is Director of Community Development regarding release of a request for proposals, RFP, to develop city-owned property located at 233 North Maryland Avenue, City Parking Lot Number 3, and 303 North Maryland Avenue, City Parking Lot Number 2. E1 is a motion directing staff to release RFP for boutique hotel development for city parking lots 2 and 3.
Okay, and
Mr. Mayor, would you like
you want
a short
just
report?
a short report so we can
Absolutely.
take the speakers. Thank you.
We'll go to Darlene Sanchez.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor
Good evening.
and council members. What we have before you is the release of the request for proposals, where we're asking for proposals for the development, hotel development on lots number 2 and 3, which are city-owned lots. Within the RFP, we've listed out this top city objectives. There is an emphasis on quality. We want a minimum 3 diamond quality, replacement of parking, long-term ground lease, and a demonstrated financial return back to the city. Also on pages 8 and 9 of the RFP, we detail out the minimum business terms that would be required of the development team, job program, evidence of financial capability, prevailing wages, to name a few. And also, this RFP requires that development proposals comply with the DSP standards and zoning guidelines. However, we will be willing to consider a second submission, or what we're calling an alternative proposal, that includes a deviation from the DSP. So whether that deviation is related to the building height or density or parking, a developer that chooses to submit an additional proposal must demonstrate how this deviation from the DSP would better achieve one of the city goals. So upon your approval, the RFP would be released later this week. We'd give proposers about 6 weeks to respond, and then we'd come back to the City Council with our recommendations. Staff is recommending that the Council provide any modifications to the RFP and direct staff to release the RFP to the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have 3 speakers who would like to be heard on this item. We'll start with Sos Bahramian.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Sos Bagramian, and I am commenting on behalf of the Glendale Tenants Union on consent calendar item 4E, which is requesting your authorization to release a request of proposals to develop city-owned property for a boutique hotel development. Our organization promotes the rights of renters in the city of Glendale so that communities, families, and individuals can achieve housing stabilization. We are concerned that the city is considering once again to utilize these important city-owned parcels for the use of a hotel development, and are here to speak in opposition to the potential release of an RFP. As you know, our city is in the midst of a historical housing crisis that is only continuing to deepen. A significant shortage of affordable housing is one of the primary causes of this crisis. The development of a boutique hotel on valuable city-owned land is not a solution to Glendale's housing crisis. We continue to urge the city to prioritize its community over hotel developers and use this valuable land as a much-needed solution to this housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Folks, please, we don't clap, we don't cheer for public comment because there's too much disruption and we don't want to do that. Let's hear all the speakers respectfully and move on. Thank you. Please don't disrupt, sir. Please do not disrupt. We've had this experience already. It's very disruptive and we don't want to do that. The officer will be watching you. You've already been warned once. You'll have to be removed. Please don't disrupt. Next speaker is Haik Mahmourian, followed by Edward Nino.
Good evening, folks. My name is Haik Mahmourian. I am with Glendale Tenants Union, and I am here as a 19-year resident of Glendale. As we all know, the city, as well as the region and nationally, we are in overarching, deep and deepening housing crisis. And that is the #1 issue in our city. At a time like that, to use public land to develop a hotel is unconscionable. It's deeply, deeply troubling to me that you are even considering to do something like that when you are supposed to be public servants thinking about the best for everyone in Glendale. I stand here, I'm completely against the release of an RFP for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Mr. Nino, Edward Nino.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Edward Nino. I'm with the Glendale Tenants Union, and I'm talking about the item 4E, the city using the property for a boutique hotel. Basically, my thoughts are you kidding? A boutique hotel when so many people need affordable housing? How about using that city-owned property to build as many units as possible to help the people who might otherwise be homeless and living in the streets? How about for once, not go for profit over people here in Glendale, think of the people who are in desperate need of housing and don't need another boutique hotel here in Glendale. I'm opposed to this boutique hotel. I'm asking the City Council to rethink this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the comments. I'm not sure if there's anything my colleagues want to say, or yes, Mr. Karpetian?
Yes, thank you. A couple of items in the RFP, if this RFP goes forward tonight. One is page 3 of 3, the submission deadline. I don't think February 28th is sufficient enough. Maybe we should give them like 3 months if there are proposals.
I'll back you on that.
Also, a couple of items I want to mention. I want to make sure that this will be a prevailing wages job, as it's indicated here, so it won't be any confusion. Yes, replacement of the parking. Want to make sure that all the applicants know that this is an open air parking lot. There's already a number of parkings on the side. We would like to have that replaced. Page 10, it indicates a reduced project parking, which means that they can propose a project that has reduced parking. I just want to take that out so there won't be an issue with that later. I'm sorry, I just wrote my notes in. So that's about it. And for the public to know that this is just an RFP. We're just trying to find out if anything can be built on that property to have some sort of an income. This if there's a hotel built over there, it would generate income for us to use that money for other needs that we have, such as affordable housing. So it could generate $1 or $2 million a year. That can go towards building more housing, towards everything else that we do. So if you have something that generates income, it will be easier for the city to address all the issues that's coming up. And housing is a huge issue in the city. We are all aware of it. We've been talking about it for months, and the right to lease ordinance is coming next month, and we keep working on it. This is not an issue that can be solved in 1 or 2 sessions of this council, or 1 or 2 months or 6 months. So with that, Mr. Mayor, this is all the comments that I have.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr.
I just want to say that I'm advocate of affordable housing. I all the time spoke about it from the day I came in, and I want to assure those who are here and they're worried that we are working on other properties, hopefully properties which will be more suited for this purpose, will be better property for the affordable housing purposes. And we are looking and we are trying to acquire lands to build more affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And also one more issue, if I can say, about that 2 parcels for the hotel. I would like to mention that whoever will come or offer any suggestion to consider that they can connect both sides of the parcel together. I mean, they have to be able to connect the 2 parcels to make it one unit. That's what I would like to add to our RFP. I hope I'm clear as to what I'm saying.
The option to look at 2 properties as one project, right? Okay, that's fine. It's in there anyways.
By
But that's
a bridge or tunnel or whatever, whoever comes forward to consider that they can have that option.
Is there anything in the RFP that precludes that from being?
There is nothing that precludes it. We could make it a suggestion then and a statement that says the 2 could be combined with a bridge or even underneath if they can figure out a way to make that work under the street.
Okay, so with the, I guess that would be like extra step, which is fine. And with the suggestion of the RFP period being extended.
And also, I also heard to remove, Councilmember Garpetian, to remove the reduced parking alternative.
Right.
Okay, sure.
So that can be a motion.
Just clarification, would just the parking or any of the alternatives that don't meet the code? We had given some examples of height, perhaps FAR or parking.
Parking is, look, that area is short in parking. I want to make sure that we do not give that, option of project that has reduced parking. The rest, we can look at it later, but reducing the number of parking spaces, I cannot vote for any project
And
like that.
I would suggest that we take out that whole alternative section, and they propose to meet code, and then we can
Right.
discuss if they can't do that
Right.
later on.
And if they want to propose something else, council always can make decisions as it did before in the past. Okay?
Okay, so with those changes, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have, roll call, please.
Councilmembers Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Sinanian?
Yes. Thank you. Next item is City Council staff comments. And happy to,
Can we? All right. There was an article in Los Angeles Times on Saturday, January 12th of 2019 about embezzlement in the city of Pasadena, that one of the employees embezzled $3.6 million from the city. And we had a situation in this city a while ago, but it was insignificant in relation to what I am referring to in Pasadena. I just want to ask city manager, city attorney maybe, what preventive measures do we have to prevent such incidents?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Councilmember Agajanian, a very good question. And before you were on the City Council, actually in January of 2015, right after the City of Pasadena had the embezzlement case, unfortunately, that occurred within the City of Pasadena, and the actual numbers at the time were $6.4 million, and ultimately what they were able to prove was a little over $3-some-odd million. We decided as the City of Glendale to do a side-by-side audit of what the City of Glendale has in place and what went wrong in the City of Pasadena. And we did that because of a couple of things. One is to make sure that we have some internal controls in place that are appropriate. And two, if there are any issues that we need to deal with internally in the City of Glendale, that we do so, unfortunately, by way of learning from another jurisdiction. And as you know, we do have an internal audit department section within the City of Glendale that serves us very well and has done so for almost 20 years. And so we asked the internal audit section to do a side-by-side audit of the City of Glendale's processes and controls that are in place and what the City of Pasadena experienced at the time. And what we found at the time was that there were some lapses, unfortunately, within the City of Pasadena in terms of the actual internal controls that weren't operating properly in the City of Pasadena, but thankfully in the City of Glendale, all of those pieces were in place. In Pasadena, vendor invoices lacked sufficient information in terms of appropriate numbers, the ability to be able to have W-9s in place in terms of your systems in place, et cetera. And there's a whole slew of things that our internal audit department went through to make sure that Glendale has internal controls in place. Now, as you know, and as we all know, fraud can happen, and it happens on a daily basis in different places. And what you need to do is have controls in place to be able to identify the fraud that's occurring, hopefully quickly, so that it doesn't get to being $6+ million or anything that's significant such as that. Based on the systems that you have in place here in the City of Glendale, based on our finance department and the controls that are in place here in Glendale, we have found that those controls are significant in Glendale. They are in place. There are training programs that we have in place here in Glendale that we provide to our employees. Our Munis system, which is our ERP system for financials as well as human resources, has the ability to have vendor information that is very specific, that allows us to track things. The segregation of duties in terms of the ability to be able to approve certain things, those segregation of duties are in place here in Glendale. And so we went through all of those pieces to ensure that we were in a place that we felt comfortable with, knowing that if something were to go wrong, we would hopefully learn about it much quicker than not. And so those pieces are in place as I sit here today and inform you. And when we did that audit, we found that there may have been some areas where we weren't strong in, and we made sure that we implemented procedures to segregate approvals within even the finance department. Your purchasing department can approve invoices, whereas other jurisdictions may allow that to occur. We segregate those duties as well, and so we made sure we took an extra step to even make sure that it doesn't happen within our own finance department, and all of those pieces are in place. So Pasadena's unfortunately has dealt with this in the last 3+ years, and it looks like it's come to some level of closure with the case that they had pending. And again, Glendale did a side-by-side, and we fared well in that side-by-side, but we made some minor tweaks, and we learned from some of their mistakes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Devine?
Sure. First of all, I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. This is our first meeting in the new year, and hopefully it will be the best yet. And on another note, I'd like to ask that we adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Sarah Joe Ivazi, a loyal, kind gentleman who loved life, people, and animals. He was born in Urmia, Persia, to Kachator and Astjik, I hope I said that right.
Yeah.
Ivazi, thank you, oldest of 4 children, Cedric, Misak, and Diana. He graduated from the American University in Lebanon with a degree in education and business. His love of travel started early, hitchhiking with friends throughout Europe and India, and he continued to travel throughout his life. Joe worked at the American Embassy in Persia, mainly in the translation department and running background checks. Hearing so much about America, he wanted to see it for himself, so he came to the United States in the spring of 1957. After spending a winter in Chicago, he made a thermally induced decision to move to California in 1959. It's kind of what I had in common with Joe. I think I did the same thing, not from Chicago, but from Pittsburgh. While both were working at Bullock's downtown, he met Joyce in May of '59, and they were married in October of that year. His son, Jeff, was born a couple of years later. I have to comment that Joe is in the audience, or Jeff is in the audience tonight, and perhaps Joe is here as well. Worked hard in the 70s to bring his parents and siblings and their families to America, achieving the goal before the devolving of the nation of his birth. After trying his hand in a few different industries, he found great happiness in the auto repair business, first working with Earl Scheib. Some of us might remember that name, later opening his own shops in Glendale and Burbank. After trying his hand at a few different industries, he found great happiness in the auto repair business, first working at Earl Scheib and then later opening, he found greater happiness after becoming a realtor. So some of you realtors, I know a lot of you knew him, in 1976 working with Dornplatz and Company. He went and formed his own company, Broadway Realtors, in the 80s. Joe was very active in Glendale with his local church and elementary school, the Boy Scouts, the Red Cross, and the YMCA, often rising to leadership positions. He was also active in the Republican politics and organizations, and in the election of President Ronald Reagan, Governor Duke Majan, and Supervisor Mike Antonovich. He continued with membership in various organizations as a member of the Lions, the Kiwanis, the Masons, and the Elks. Joe is survived by his wife, Joyce, a lovely woman, his brother, Cedric, and sister Diana, his son, Jeff, whom I said is here in the audience tonight, daughters, Amy, Corrine, Anita, and 7 grandchildren, and an extended family that will remain unmentioned. But he was my friend. He was a very kind man, and he will be missed by this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Devine, and Joe Ivazi's family is here.
Jeff is right there.
Our condolences, sir. I'll go to Mr. Carpetian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say it's great to be back. I wish everyone a happy new year. I hope, and I'm sure this will be a great year for all of us. We have so many challenges, but that makes it fun. As far as Joe goes, I've known Joe Ivazi for a long, long time. Was a man of integrity and respect, good fellow realtor, and a family man. And we keep him in our thoughts and prayers, and my condolences to his family as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Najarian, anything to add?
Well, I knew Joe through the Republican Club. I don't know if there's any Republicans out there anymore, but yes, Joe was a very strong Republican, supporting some of our great leaders in the past. He also had a mean hamburger at Damon's. He was a part owner of Damon's for many years, so it's sad to see him go. He was always a very friendly face and a great leader of our community.
Yes, and I join in those condolences and sentiments. I've met Mr. Ivazi at Damon's, actually, and he was a fine gentleman, and really sorry to see him pass. I also want to wish everyone a happy new year. Want to wish our Armenian Apostolic and Eastern Orthodox folks a Merry Christmas, because theirs was relatively recently, just a week ago, and hope that this year is a happy one for all of us. Unfortunately, since we've been away for such a long time, we have had yet another dear member of the community pass away, and we'll be adjourning today in the memory of both of them, both Joy Avazi and James Patrick Durness. And I would like to read some comments about Mr. Durness. James Patrick Durness, 75, died peacefully at his home in Glendale, California, Friday, January 4, 2019. A vigil service is scheduled for Thursday, January 17th at 7 p.m., with funeral services scheduled for Friday, January 18th at 10 a.m. at Incarnation Catholic Church, located at 1001 North Brand Boulevard, Glendale, California. His burial will follow at Forest Lawn Cemetery, Glendale, California. Jim was born on June 25, 1943, in New Rockford, North Dakota. To Leonard and Myrtle Durness, he was the fifth child of a family of 9 boys and 2 girls. He graduated from St. James High School, New Rockford, in 1961 and moved to Glendale, California shortly thereafter. Jim attended Los Angeles Trade Technical College and worked in the family automotive business. From 1972 to 2013, he and brothers Ron, LJ, and Jack were partners in Durness Automotive, Glendale, California. While in business, they were very active in Glendale community development and services. Jim married Connie Hendrickson from Cheyenne, North Dakota, on June 27, 1964, and they have 2 children, Michael Durness, Minnetonka, Minnesota, and Michelle Stump, Eric, who's in Acton, California. Also 4 grandchildren, Justin, Quinn, Griffin, and Connor. Jim has been very active with his parish, Incarnation Catholic Church, since becoming a member in the early 1960s. Along with such charitable work with his parish, Catholic Charities, St. Vincent de Paul, and Catholic Food Pantry, he was a member of the Kiwanis Club and remained involved in many Glendale community organizations over the years. He was known by many to be Mr. Dependable. You could often find Jim and Connie distributing donuts to parish members after Sunday Mass. Jim was preceded in death by his wife Connie, who was the love of his life, his parents, and 4 brothers, Raymond, Donald, Rudolph, and Timothy. He's survived by his 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and 6 siblings: Roland Pat from Burbank, California, Loretta Babineau from Victorville, California, Leonard from Victorville, California, Jack, Jack, and, well, I guess Kathy's the couple, Burbank, California, Ralph from Valley City, North Dakota, and Leona Fox from Newport Beach, California. In lieu of flowers, please consider making a donation in Jim's memory to St. Vincent de Paul Society, Catholic Charities, or your favorite charity. So our condolences to the Durness family as well. And that's all I have, and we're going to move on to the next item, which is community event announcements, 3 minutes. And we're going to start.
Mr. Mayor, prior to that, is it okay? Yes, if I can ask Catherine Williams from our Urban Forestry to come up and speak to you very briefly on a grant that we received regarding some trees.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm happy to be here. My name is Catherine Williams, and I am the City of Glendale's Arborist Technician at Public Works. I'm happy to announce that Public Works has been awarded a grant from the California Urban Forest Council through a partnership with West Coast Arborists and Glendale Youth Alliance. This grant has brought us an exciting program of Arbor Day events and resources to share with the public this spring. The grant is called the CIRCLE Grant, which stands for the California Initiative to Reduce Carbon and Limit Emissions. The city is being awarded this grant for the first time this year, and CAL FIRE is funding the CIRCLE Grant with the goal of reducing carbon and greenhouse gas emissions by planting urban trees. In addition to the annual Arbor Day ceremony at Casa Adobe, we will be holding 2 new events. First, West Coast Arborist is teaching a tree planting workshop at Brand Library on Saturday, February 16th, which is free and open to the public. Then on Saturday, March 9th, we are holding a tree planting event at Verdugo Park, where volunteers will be invited to plant 20 new trees in the park with city staff and WCA. The Circle Grant is also providing 200 new city street trees, which WCA will plant for us. And finally, the grant includes a free tree giveaway that is available to residents online at energysavingtrees.arborday.org. For everyone who'd like to attend our events or learn more, all of this information is available in the City Connection newsletter, on the City of Glendale Facebook and Instagram accounts, and on the City of Glendale events calendar at glendaleca.gov. Thank you so much, and I hope you can join us.
Thank you. I'm sure we will.
What kind of trees are we talking about? The
For
giveaway
our
the
street
residents.
trees? For the residents, we're 3-gallon trees, so you'll have 3 trees, and they'll be able to locate them on your property in a way that will save the optimal amount of energy for your
And West
home.
Coast Arborists will actually do the planting?
Yes, and they'll come out to the home and plant.
What species are they?
We have about 10 species for selection, so they're climate adapted, and you can choose between a variety.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Does the homeowner get to choose what tree they want? or will the
Absolutely.
arborist go? And the 200 trees, the street trees?
Mm-hmm.
And those will go around the city on like Brand and Central? and-
That's right. So that'll be for reforesting the city.
Oh, great.
No
And-
carob trees, I hope.
No, no carob trees? I guarantee it.
We have problems with those. Those are the ones that rotted and all sorts of.
So then with these trees, I want to ask, then will Public Works go around and take out the concrete so the trees can go, I mean, is that how you're planning on making this happen?
Mr. Mayor, Member City Council, Councilmember Devine, we have a palette for each street in the city. So depending, some areas, there are already existing cutouts in the parkways that are missing trees. So the priority will be to replant those. And then there are some trees that are declining and to a degree that they may be dying. So the goal is, like Catherine mentioned, reforestation.
I see. Okay, all right, thank you.
Just, I'm sorry.
Hopefully there'll be
Of
some
course.
left over.
How big these trees they gonna get? Is
Councilmember
this
Agajanian, it
trees
depends
that
on the
there is-
species.
Oh, I know, but did you consider like not to be very big, that you have to cut it all the time and? I mean,
These
there
are suitable
different
for
species.
urban forest, for streets, not the ones that they're going to be planting at Verdugo Park are completely different than the street trees, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great grant. Thank you very much. Okay, now, is there more? Is there more stuff?
There's one more announcement, Mr. Mayor, and that is a program that you've initiated, City Council in Your Neighborhood, which will take place on Tuesday, January 29th, 2019. This will take place at 6 p.m. at the Pacific Community Center. There'll be presentations from Library, Arts, and Culture Department, program updates, affordable housing strategy, Community Service and Parks Department updates, and an overview of the 2020 census that's coming up, as well as traffic safety and traffic mitigation information. And this is an opportunity for individuals who live in and around that neighborhood, which is in the southern portion of the city, near the Pacific Community Center, to come out, ask questions, find out what's going on in their community, find out about these programs, and learn about what the council is doing, and for you to learn about what's going on in the community. For more information, members of our community can call 818-548-4844. This is open to anyone from any part of the city to attend. Again, it will take place Tuesday, January 29th, 2019 at the Pacific Community Center at 6 p.m. City Council in Your Neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Yes, so we invite everyone to come and attend the City Council in your neighborhood. The last one was at Chevy Chase Country Club, and we faced some criticism. Why are you having council in your neighborhood meeting at a country club? And we said we're trying to equally distribute these meetings throughout the city. And here you go. Our next meeting is in South Glendale, very intentionally, very much on purpose. And we're going to discuss all these issues. So anyone with any concerns and anyone who's interested in these issues has anything to say, please come attend the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, now, community events. And I'm going to invite Luis Gill and Manan Hakopian up.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. First, let me say Happy New Year to all. Let it be a blessed 2019 for all. Manan speaks Armenian, so I'm going to be translating. So would you like to hear her, or do you just want me to tell you the program, or would you like to hear her in Armenian?
We're okay. either
Whatever
way.
is convenient for you.
Yeah.
It's basically about the 90th birthday of Jivan Kasparian, as you see on the screen. Of course, all of you might know. Legendary duduk, which is our Armenian infamous instrument. Jivan Kasparian is here, and by Manan Hagopian, who is her father, basically produced the film, and it's being premiered here in Los Angeles, in the city of Glendale, at Alex Theater. We invite all city council members, including Zara Sinanian and everybody from the community, as well as a recognition dinner in honor of his birthday at Arbat in Burbank. She was kindly asking if there is any possibility, because he is legendary and because he's so well known, that we could celebrate and see his movie on Sunday, January 20th, and if we could open it to public and to see if there's any way the city council could announce it or make announcements or somehow get the word out.
Are those all your comments, Louise? So I don't think we have a meeting until after January 20th, but each one of us can certainly use our means, whether it's social media or such, to spread the word.
Ամենում պիտի ասեն, անոնց մավտիկներ, ուրիշով չի գա, so ինչ որ գմնանեն եւ բոլորը կանչված են. You're all invited, by the way, on the 20th, on Sunday, at 7 p.m. at Alex, and of course, following Monday at Arbat Restaurant at 7 p.m.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you
There's a little clip, I think, a trailer.
Yeah, and I believe Councilmember Najarian, you wanted me to play a clip. This isn't the clip that we
Go
were
ahead,
able to
Artie, I'll
find,
leave
but
it to your, you're as well versed in the.
Jivan Gasparian, who plays the traditional Armenian flute wind instrument duduk, was featured in the soundtrack of the Academy Award nominated soundtrack to The Gladiator, and I believe the soundtrack to Ronin, and a number of other Hollywood feature films. And this is a sampling, I believe, of the music. So hopefully this works.
You have the one from the actual film?
Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that clip. Possibly copyright protected on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to the 3-minute community announcement period, and we're going to keep this to 3 minutes. 3 minutes for each speaker. And we usually take 5 cards, but somehow somebody snuck in a 6th card. So today, yes.
We ask you to allow that person because there was a little bit of a mix-up as to individuals cutting in front of individuals and people who had arrived and who had been waiting since 4 o'clock. Your permission and
yes,
discretion.
we'll allow that 6th person in, but we're going to keep everything to to 3 minutes because there's a 5-minute period. If you want to say more than 3 minutes, that's what the 5-minute period is for. So let's start with Margie Barnes, followed by Tony Passarella.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Happy New Year. I am Margie Barnes. I'm the 2019 president of the Glendale Association of Realtors, and I'm a longtime resident of Glendale, and I'm here to speak or make a statement on rent control on behalf of the Glendale Realtors. We reiterate that we are absolutely opposed to rent control. However, we realize that there are steps that the council can take to ease the concern of our city's tenants. To that end, we are looking forward to seeing the staff draft the new regulations as directed by the City Council late last year. One issue which we have concern is the process for mediation. We urge the city to study the use of a professional mediator, paid as a consultant. A professional paid only for his or her time is a vastly better solution than a mediation board, which would require council appointments, a great deal of staff time and support, and city funding for time and expenses. We believe a professional mediator would, in the long run, be a more fair, cost-effective, and a faster way to get an equitable conclusion. We hope the staff will bring you that solution in its recommendations. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Tony Passarella, followed by Vic Markarian, or Markarian.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening, sir.
council members, staff, and viewing public. Tony Passarella, 32-year resident of the city of Glendale. Dockless electric scooters regulate this. My glasses. 18-year-old female was riding a Lime scooter in Woodland Hills. She applied the brake, but the brake failed. She put her foot down, tried to stop. She slammed to the ground and the scooter fell on top of her. She underwent surgery involving a metal plate in her wrist. 30-year-old female was riding a Bird electric scooter on a roadway in Long Beach. As she approached the intersection, her light was red. She tried to brake. The brakes didn't work. So she put her foot down and tried to brake. She flew off the scooter. She suffered 6 broken bones in her wrist. 33-year-old female was riding her Lime electric scooter on the roadway when the accelerator stuck. She had a broken jaw as she fell down. 33-year-old female was riding a Bird electric scooter on the roadway when the brakes failed. She suffered a laceration to her forehead and severe road rash on her arm. 30-year-old female was riding, a lot of 30-year-olds here, was riding a Bird electric scooter in San Diego. The brakes failed, and she had to jump to avoid hitting a car. She suffered a broken femur, requiring surgery, titanium rod and screws to hold it together. 31-year-old male was riding a Bird electric scooter. A car swerved in front of him, then he braked. The scooter rider applied the brakes, but they did not work. He had to jump off the scooter to avoid hitting the car. His face slammed into the pavement. He suffered facial injuries, including contusions, black eye, and road rage. 28-year-old female was riding a Bird electric scooter in Woodland Hills. She was transitioning from the street to the sidewalk because traffic ahead on the roadway was blocking safe passage. She braked, attempting to slow. The brakes failed. There's a class action lawsuit was filed in the Superior Court, Los Angeles Superior Court. It has 30-plus people, and growing, by the way. It's a law firm out of Santa Monica. This is just one law firm in our area. This is happening all over the country. There's just one. I picked the tamest picture. These stories I just read, they're all real stories, real people. Would I highly encourage everybody within the sound of my voice to go to Santa Monica Injury Law Firm and look at these pictures. They're horribly graphic. You may not even want to look at them, but they're real. It's true. It's happening. These scooters are very, very dangerous, and it's unconscionable to me that you would want to put them in the city of Glendale.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
I have a question. Mr. Passarella, I have a question for you. Sure. Do you have a timeline on this accident as to between what time to what time, how many years, when
Yeah, the last year. 'Cause
all
they're-
of this happened last year, 2018?
The scooters are fairly new. They've only been around for like a year and a half, started in Santa Monica. But they're all in the last year.
Okay, thank you.
Vic Markarian, followed by Vazgen Mazanians.
Hi, good evening, council members.
Good evening.
My name is Vic Markarian. By the way, Joe Ivazian was a great realtor. I believe he worked in the county, and he called me many times about the Republican Party. So anyway, I hope you guys had a great New Year, great Christmas. Obviously, our position as homeowners, we don't want to rent control, but now we have a right to lease. We're going to work with it. I heard a few tenants. By the way, some of the tenants that I met, because I've been here a few times, they don't live in Glendale. Some they do, some they don't. They live in different area, Los Angeles or Pasadena or Thousand Oaks or whatever. I just want to point out, and I heard many times about shortage. Well, I have three units. I had it available, one bedroom in Glendale, 1450. Nobody was renting for 3 months. I don't know what shortage they're talking about. I do real estate. I have a lot of clients. Their units are empty too. So anyway, for me, shortage means if you put a sign, it's gone in a week. But anyway, I mailed almost all of you guys my suggestion about the ordinance, and I want you guys, if you can, target specifically the buyers, because the tenant have issue with the new rent increase mostly is the new owners. Okay, they have a problem with the corporations. We're not doing anything about them because they're buildings after 1995. And I sent to all the homeowners in Glendale, and probably were over 5,000. And a lot of them called me, and I noticed most of them, their rent were like $700, $900, and they were really not happy with it. What I noticed is 95% of the landlords in Glendale, their rents are low. So that's something you guys need to take under consideration. I agree with the tenants, and Agajanian mentioned that to use some of the money to give them affordable housing. You know, some of them are on fixed income, they cannot afford, we don't want them to relocate and things like that. So 100 million, 130 million, whatever Measure S funding we can use. And basically the whole purpose is I love my tenants. I have a lot of tenants since 1983, and a lot of the people call me, they love their tenants too. And only one landlord was really, she said a year and a half ago, she increased all the rents because she heard about this thing. But the rest of them, none of them done that. But the thing is, we don't want to increase, we just want to be like a family. But when they leave, obviously, you give it as much as you can. And basically we want to keep our community great, and Glendale I live here since 1979, and we are stakeholders in Glendale, homeowners. We like to see, if you guys don't mind, the right to lease ordinance before it becomes we want to give our input. We want to help both sides. So I really appreciate for your time, and you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. Vazgen Mazanians, followed by Gabriel Gamboa.
Good evening, Mayor and council
Good
members.
evening,
Happy New Year. My name is Vazgen Mazanians, and I live in Glendale, and I'm a licensed agent specializing in multifamily and property management in the entire Southern California. I'm very, very familiar with rent control. I'm here to state that rent control will not work, especially in Glendale. Rent control includes any rent cap at any level imposed by the city. There are several reasons for that. First, if rent control is implemented, the rents of vacant units will skyrocket in Glendale. I just looked at Zillow today for available two-bedroom, two-bath units under $2,000. In Glendale, there are 11 units available. For other cities that are rent control, this is the result of the search. In Studio City, there are 0 units available, two-bedroom, two-bath under $2,000. Sherman Oaks, only 3. Santa Monica, 0. Toluca Lake, 1. These are all rent-controlled units. You can try the search yourself. Go to Zillow search, and you will find the similar results. Rents will skyrocket in Glendale. This would be terrible for all the new tenants trying to rent in Glendale. Furthermore, if you research, Glendale tenants generally stay in their units longer, much longer compared to other cities. That means the available units for new tenants, if rent control is implemented, will be further reduced, pushing rents of vacant units even higher. Finally, since Glendale residents in average make less than surrounding comparable cities, they will not be able to afford the new increased rents. Now, knowing rent control will not work in Glendale, what should we do to solve the problem? After all, that's why we're here. And the result of the issue is the mainly sudden large increase of small percentage of landlords. I suggest to expand the state law and put further delays in rent increases, such as increase of 25% would require 6 months, or 50% increase would require 1 year. I have tried this strategy in properties I manage, and it works very well. Landlords eventually, over a couple of years, are able to realize the potential of their buildings, and tenants, through community networking, eventually are able to find suitable and comparable low rents from landlords that do not necessarily care for market rents. And for truly needy tenants, of course, Measure S or other subsidy programs would serve well. If we implement the suggestion I propose today, we won't have high rents, we won't sabotage new tenants, we won't have complicated rules for tenants and landlords to follow, we won't need any city rent control boards, any inspections, any mediation boards, we would not need special provisions when property is bought and sold, or for any allowances for large capital expenses, just simple substantial delays in significant rent increases. Let's keep it simple. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gabriel Gamboa, followed by Edward Nino.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City
Hello.
Council. Happy New Year to everyone. I wanted to talk also, as I've talked before, about property rent affordability in the city. In a recent city council meeting, the city staff determined that the average rent increase over the past many years for the non-luxury units in Glendale has been about 3.1%. When you consider that the largest rent increases occur between tenancies, most tenants actually face very small rent increases for the time they're in their units. Established tenants have, in a sense, great rent stability. Now, in looking forward to what the city should do, we face something in the next few years that's going to help substantially with this problem inadvertently, no matter what gets done. We had recessions in 91, 92, 2000, 2001, 2008, 2009. We are due for one. During recessions, unfortunately, rents do not stabilize. They decrease. They drop. I experienced that when I bought my first property in 2007. To this end, I spoke earlier today to a couple of city council members about ideas to increase the stock of housing, which is really the long-term solution for our city. If there's one thing that the local property owners and the Glendale Tenants Union agree on, is that ultimately we just need more places for people to live. I think using this in conjunction with other ideas that the city is proposing, we really do need to have more units no matter what we do. Otherwise, we're either waiting to Manhattanize the city with the large properties, which takes forever, or we're using simple price controls, which long-term, as we've seen in other cities, really don't work. So we're looking forward, all the property owners who provide the overwhelming majority of the affordable housing in the city of Glendale, to continue to work with the city to solve this problem for all of us, including our friends and neighbors in the Glendale Tenants Union. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward Nino.
Mayor and City Council, my name is Edward Nino, and I'm a longtime Glendale resident and renter. I'm here tonight as a very concerned renter and Glendale Tenant Union member. I will be severely affected, as will many of my neighbors, if we do not pass the rent control ordinance. I've had yearly raises in my rent that have been in the 4 to 5% range, and that has been okay. I get that. I understand that the owners need to make a profit on their investment. What will change my life dramatically is if there's a 20, 30, 40, 50+% increase in my rent. This is happening in my neighborhood now. These landlords are using these increases in rent to evict people. People who cannot pay, and the Glendale City Council is standing by and letting them do it. We keep on hearing that if you can't pay, you should move. Not everybody can do that. This past December 1st, they raised one of my neighbor's rent from $1,300 to $1,800 overnight. It'll happen with mine and the rest of the people in my apartment complex when the new owners get the go-ahead to do whatever they want on February 27th, 2019, with the right to lease ordinance. The right to lease ordinance is not the answer. It is using our own taxpayer dollars to get subsidies to help pay our own rent. Non-binding arbitration is a joke. There's no teeth in it. It's insulting for you to think we're okay with a right to lease ordinance. We are not. Paula Devine, how would you like if your bank decided to change your mortgage amount from $3,000 a month to $6,000? And if you complained, the bank would just say, if you don't like it, just move. Aaron Najarian, how would you like if your mortgage on your apartment complex went from $50,000 a month to $100,000 a month? Would that be okay with you? If you don't like it, just move. You go to your city council for help, and they say, we can't do anything. It's just how it is. We don't want the banks, the owners, to have a hard time making a profit, so maybe sell your house and move to Victorville, where the mortgage rates are better. Sounds wrong, sounds illegal, but it's not. This is what the city council feels is fair to do to their loyal constituents who happen to be renters. How can you feel it's fine to do that to the hardworking people in Glendale who support the city of Glendale's tax base? If you're okay with putting your souls and bank accounts up to the highest bidder, then there's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is keep on fighting till we get a city council that actually puts the people in the city of Glendale first and not the landlords. It's not just about the money, it's about lives and how they would change for the worse. It was your choice to protect the people when you were sworn in and to serve the people. Or it seems like when it comes to rent control, to serve the owners and the landlords. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last speaker. Next item, please.
Next item on the agenda under action items, the city attorney regarding amendments to the city's campaign finance regulations pertaining to campaign election cycle to coincide with recent changes to the Glendale general municipal election date. 8A1 is an ordinance amending chapter 1.10 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to local election campaigning regulations.
Garcia?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the item before you is to change the election cycle for purposes of our campaign finance ordinance. Currently, it occurs between September of even number year or August of even number years to November of odd number years to coincide with the previous election date. Recommendation is to change that to the first day of the month. There's 180 days prior to the election. So for the upcoming March 2020 election, the election cycle, the point by which council elected official candidates for the city of Glendale can commence raising funds would be September 1 of 2019, and then it will go forward in each successive election. In addition, it would be 180 days prior to a special election. The election cycle would end on the date of the election. That would be one change. If you recall, the council previously eliminated the date by which there used to be a deadline by which council candidates could raise money to pay off debt. That deadline has been eliminated under the guise of there is debt, it has to be paid off. So the council revised the ordinance previously to get rid of that. So in its place, there would be a deadline by which each candidate would have to set what their campaign debt, if any, was, and that it's currently drafted at 30 days after the election date, but it's a council policy decision if you want to make that a later date. If you think you've all ran campaigns, obviously, so you know what time might be appropriate for candidates who have debt to be able to determine through all the counting that it needs to do what's the appropriate date to establish your debt for purposes of paying off that debt in the future. So with that, I submit the ordinance for you, and it's on the agenda for introduction for tonight.
Some comments.
Yes, just a quick comment. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 30 days, I don't think that's enough. So maybe it's 60 days or 90 days after the campaign is over to put together your accounting and find out even if you have enough debt or not to report. Sure. I don't think it's something urgent that you have to do it in 30 days. So if you have a little bit more time, because
Especially after a campaign, you're kind of recovering from that intensity.
No candidate would do his or her financing, so the accounting, and it's not easy to get everything together. So instead of that 30 days, maybe in 90 days.
Mr. Najarian?
I'd be ready to introduce it with that amendment.
Great.
But I will defer to other comments by my colleagues before that happens.
And I'll support it as well. Ms. Devine? Support? I support. Very well. So with that amendment, 90 days instead of 30 days to figure out the accounting?
Absolutely. You want to introduce it, Mr. Najarian?
Yes, I'll introduce it. And just to be clear, that debt is declared on the Form 460?
Correct.
The FPPC Form 460.
Where you document all your costs, expenses, and contributions.
We have a.
It's been introduced. It doesn't need a. It'll come back. It'll come back on the 5th.
Okay. Very well. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item.
Next item is oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. City manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Very well. Thank you. So now we have the 5-minute section. And everyone's entitled to speak for 5 minutes. So I'm going to start with Matthew Gushman, followed by Carlos Vega.
The mouse should be working.
Good evening, Honorable.
Is the mouse working? Yeah, it is.
Yep. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council members. My name is Matthew Gershman. I'm here. I'm a resident. I'm a homeowner of Glendale, and I oppose rent control, as do many others who are homeowners and residents of Glendale. One of them being Mr. Aram Stepanian. He couldn't be here. He prepared this letter, so he asked me to present it since he's out of the country. It's on the screen, so I don't know if it makes it into the video if anyone at home wants to see it, but this is the first page. I'll just go through the highlights since I only have a few minutes. All right, so he was here at the December 18 meeting. I think that was the last meeting, and he had this back and forth with the mayor. He didn't agree with comments about whether the law of supply and demand is still relevant today. He was asked at the end to identify the, I guess, date and time when those when the mayor's comments were presented, with which he was taking issue. So this does that. Specifically, it's November 13. It's on the video. There's the date. There's the time mark. And specifically, I think the clash here is whether someone agrees that free market is still relevant today, or whether we're moving in a socialist direction. As the letter explains, he obviously believes, and I agree with him, that free market's not dead. It is at the heart of America. It is what drives this economy. In 2018, basically the entire United States has no rent control, and it's second in economic freedom in the entire America's region. So free market works. It has its downsides. Socialist markets don't work. They do worse. This is the second page of the letter. It's on the screen. There also was this, back and forth about whether the New Deal is precedent. The New Deal is not precedent. The New Deal came about because of the Great Depression. This is not a depression. This is not even a recession. This is economic expansion. But moreover, I think for students of history, they know the New Deal had nothing to do with rent control. It was basically farm subsidies, which the only analog here, I guess, would be Measure S subsidies. Social Security Administration was a biggie, and job creation for public works. But that was basically it. So then he explains also, there's the handouts, I guess you'll get them. This affects him directly. He doesn't like it. So that's the letter. Why are we talking about rent control? I thought rent control was off the table. I thought it was going to be right to lease. Well, here's why we're talking about rent control, because it's not off the table. As I understand it, the draft ordinance staff has been directed to prepare includes rent control. Why am I saying that? There's going to be a rent cap of a certain percentage whereby if the landlord wants to increase rent above it, they're going to suffer a penalty. Maybe it's mediation, maybe it's tenant relocation fees. I don't know, I guess we'll see, but I understand that's to be included. That's rent control, but you don't have to take my word for it. Take your staff's word for it. July 2016, their staff report explains, council asked staff this question: can the city enact an ordinance to require a landlord to pay relocation expenses when they are proposing to raise rents by more than 10% and the tenant's not going to pay? What was the answer? We'll just cut to the chase at the end. If the council is inclined to adopt such a requirement, it may want to consider imposing it only on units constructed before February 1, 1995. Where did that date come from? We know, okay? It's Costa-Hawkins. There's the statute, it's in the civil code, the cite's at the bottom of the slide. As you know, Costa-Hawkins prohibits imposing rent control on any units where the certificate of occupancy is issued after February 1, 1995. So, in other words, the proposed right to lease has rent control in it, albeit by a different name. It's a marketing ploy, it's dishonest. If we're going to have an honest discussion about policy, which I would very much love to have, we have to start calling things what they are. Some people prefer socialist policies, some people don't, but you can't have that debate until we start calling it what it is. I have a second PowerPoint. I don't know if we can load it. No. So I only have 5 minutes. So I'll be back because I have another PowerPoint. I'm not just here to criticize. I want to propose what is the best solution going forward. That's going to be for the next presentation. But the long story, the short of it is, this is a sneak preview, build more housing, promote policies that supply more housing units. That is literally the only answer to this problem. Rent control is counterproductive, and I will show you that nonpartisan bodies conclude rent control will have the opposite effects that you seek. Thank you, and I'll be back for the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Grishman. Look forward to seeing you next week. Before we go to the next speaker, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened last week and what's in this letter.
Or not last week. Last year.
Was it last year? You're right, at the last meeting. So, and I don't have any problem with any speaker coming and speaking for rent control, against rent control, making constructive criticisms of one idea or another, or making suggestions as to how we can, help all of our residents, regardless of what their social status is, their economic status is, whether they're renters or landlords. That's not anything that I take issue with. What I did take issue with is blatant misrepresentation of what I said during the previous council meeting, and blatant misrepresentation by one Mr. Aram Stepanian. So, this gentleman came to the last meeting and stated that I said that supply and demand is an old ideology. That's what I countered him on. I said, nope, I never said that. Show me where I said that during the last meeting. He said, I will find it and I'll show it to you. So this letter represents a very poor attempt at showing where I said it. And this is what it says about where I said it. So it quotes 6 hours and 46 minutes. Folks, feel free to go back and look at that video, where I said that letting the market dictate is an outdated concept. So assuming that that's because he only has market dictate in quotation marks, assuming that that's what I said, market dictate is an outdated concept, obviously is a far cry from saying that supply and demand is an old ideology. These are two different things. I mean, if you're going to quote someone, you have to quote them. You can't just come up here and make up things that supposedly they said. And then how does he justify and explain that he equated supply and demand with market dictate? He says, well, surely the Webster Dictionary defines the market as supply and demand, and, quote, I'm quoting his language, to be sure, Mayor Sinanian's criticism of letting the, quote, market dictate, end quote, was, in fact, a criticism of the concept of supply and demand. So by deductive reasoning, by logical reasoning, he deduced that I said that, which I didn't. So he misquoted me, and instead of having the moral fortitude to say, you know what, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I thought that's what you said. That's not what you said. I shouldn't have quoted you that way. Instead of saying that, he's continuing on with this misrepresentation. So, what did I say in reality? I criticized the idea that let the market dictate, because that ideology indeed was true of sort of early capitalist America, the laissez-faire capitalism of America, which, I used those same words last time. I said laissez-faire capitalism hasn't existed in this country for a long time. What kind of regulations do we have? Interesting, Mr. Gershman talked about farm subsidies. That is a direct intervention in supply and demand. That's how the government gets into the farmer's business and artificially makes our farmers produce things that they otherwise wouldn't, because the market wouldn't have it. There wouldn't be a demand for it. We create artificial supply by giving farm subsidies to our farmers because we want them to be in business. We want self-reliance when it comes to food products because it's national security. These are things that have nothing to do with the market, but these are concepts that necessitate governmental involvement with that market and therefore negate the market will dictate ideology. The New Deal, the New Deal brought an entire package of market involvement, of governmental intervention in the market. Who today who went to an elementary or middle school in the United States hasn't heard of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which for the first time exposed the horrible health violations and labor violations that were taking place throughout the United States in the early 1900s. And The Jungle eventually generated what we know today as the FDA. The FDA checks and makes sure that there are checks and balances, that health codes are, that the food is safe, all of which is in interference with the market. Because otherwise the market would kind of sidestep these expensive steps to safeguard our health because it's cheaper. And you know what? That's what the market would have done. How about antitrust laws? We have an entire body of laws that's meant to strangle the market. Antitrust laws, that's what they do. They make sure that a single company doesn't grow too much to swallow the entire market, The regulations that interfere with the let the market dictate are numerous. They're in the hundreds, in the thousands. And you know what? No one is, as far as I know, has questioned them in a long, long time. So, no need to misstate what someone said or didn't say. Secondly, I love it when a realtor comes and gives a lesson in history to a historian, okay? As opposed to Mr. Stepanian. I, Zara Sinanyan, have a degree of history from UCLA, which I got with honors. I also have a degree from political science. I also have a degree, Juris Doctorate, from USC Law School. So I welcome him to come back, and if he wants to engage in this some more, if he needs more of this, I'm happy to give him as much knowledge about history and about how the market has evolved throughout the United States as needs be. But I never said that supply and demand don't work. I merely said that our government doesn't just let the market dictate. Our government, and we are a small part of that government, often interferes because of overarching needs, social needs, political needs, national security needs, and again, I'm not arguing for or against rent control. I'm just arguing this point that I didn't say that. So, with that, I'm going to take the next speaker, Carlos Vega, followed by Yokiko Yamagami. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, members
sir.
of the City of Glendale, the Council. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm going to be very brief. I live here in the city for 29 years in the same neighborhood. And obviously, I witnessed a new type of of crisis that this city and in general the country is right now. And it's about people like me in the third age push and try to be expelled from, from the races of the rent and the absurdity of certain landlords, unscrupulous landlords, that they pretend to be rich from the day to the next day. I witnessed in my neighborhood, to be honest, on Cameron Place, 330, one building that I mostly occupied by tenants, descendant from Armenian families, all people of my age. The story is that that building has been bought by a company of developers with the agency in Calabasas, here in California. What they did from one day to the next day was a little certain maintenance of the front of the building, some Mickey Mouse there, cosmetically, and put a sign in every tenant for an increase of 60 days, or with an increase of $600, or to leave the place in 60 days. Well, let me tell you, that, in my way of seeing that, is a criminal thing. Criminal. Because that is an abuse. If people that they were paying $1,300 to go $600 from just out of the blue, because of the owner decided that it has to be that way. Well, that is the phenomenon that is occurring here in the city of Glendale, that it's taking over all the developers. You can see, the street of Central Boulevard full of those luxury buildings. Who can pay that? All that developing increase, with the traffic that we have in our days now. We have, traffic all over. You have to go to Burbank, you have to deal, with that transit. If you take Lennox or if you take the freeway, of more than half hour, because all the city crowded here by cars. That is the develop. I don't blame it on you, but you are the leaders of this city, and I wonder what you are doing to stop this. What are you doing? It's funny because people are, while I'm talking, they are reading the phone. Somebody is a little sleeping there. Let me tell you, if you don't feel that you are not efficient, quit. Let the other people that do a good job for us, 29 years living here, and always is very the same thing, the same frequency, the same thing in this kind of meetings. It's really sad to see people of mostly of the same background than you guys, on the third age, that they are not living there anymore in my neighborhood. They were expelled from this city to live out. You know why? Because there is no resources here. Nobody that stand for them. I wonder, how do you feel that way, Maybe it's boring for you, sir, Mr. Garcia, that you are more satisfied watching your cell phone than what I'm saying. Or maybe because some of you are, landlords, and they only see, their side. I feel really shame for this.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Have a good night. I'm sorry, Yukiko Yamagami, followed by Margot Vega. Hello.
Good evening. My name is Yukiko Yamagami. I was born and raised in Japan. I came to the United States when I was 26, 1979. So it's going to be 40 years by this May. I was going to just be this country for 1 year, just to see other world. And I started to go to the language school, started to learn English, and I transferred to Glendale Community College, which was 1980. And then, since then, I live in Glendale. I love this city, but this is the first time I stepped into this building. And I was, like I said, I was a student. I was renting the apartment in Glendale, 935 North Louis, and then share with my roommate. Also, she was a student in Glendale College. And rent at the time was $350. Okay, that was, of course, years ago. And then owner was also the teacher at the Glendale Community College. But since she passed away, the management went to the management company and raised double, 400, 500, 600. And then the apartment wasn't really nice. So, but I find the present apartment, I've been living since 1986. And then I understand no rent control, so that's why I needed to pay or move out. But I find a nice place, and that was $650, 1986. And then the owner really was really nice. She just raised once to $695 till like 20 years later, because she paid off and she doesn't need to, get so much money and stuff. But again, she passed away. Management went to the company again and raised from $695, $700, $900, $1,000, $1,200, and then the nephew took over, but he couldn't really keep. So another realtor took over, and then of course no rent control. So that's why till 2017, went up from $695 to $1,900. Okay, and then last year I got a notice. I was really shocked to raise from $19 to $21.95. That was almost $300 more, but I paid for it. And then first time I see this kind of thing, help us something at least. So I was really happy for this thing. And then, but end up, this was lasting just for 2 months. And then I got another notice, it's gonna go up. But anyway, so he agreed. At the beginning, he kind of ignored, but he agreed, go back to the rent from September the 1st, 2018, back to $1,900 from $21.95. So that really helped for me. But after that, without making more extension or some kind of control, he said he's going to raise up to $22.99, which is way more than before I was paying $21.95. So that's why I stepped into this building first time, since after moving to Glendale. And I love the city. I love the apartment I've been living since 1986, and I try to pay rent, and I'm a registered nurse. I've been working in Little Tokyo. I was a nurse in Japan too, so anyway, I've been working, and finally I reached to my Social Security receiving from end of April, but the month won't even pay the rent. It's not even, enough to pay the rent, okay? I'm a professional working here like over 30 years, and I can't even afford paying the rent. So that's why I want you to understand, I love to live in this city as long as I could. When I walk, to drop the mail and stuff, I look at the mountain. I'm from mountainside in Japan, Nagano. The Olympic was held 19 whatever. So I love to see the mountain. I have a lot of friends in the Causeway, and I like the beach. But when I drive past downtown and see the mountain, I feel like, oh, I come home. I'm my home. I love to see the mountains, and then, I love to live in here as long as possible. Of course, I pay rent, but not increase from 19 to 21 to 22 to 23 within a year. I got the 3 rent raising notice within a year. So that's what I want you to understand, and really thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to, speak and meet all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Margot Vega, followed by Roseanne Calaba.
Hello. I'm nervous, I'm sorry. Honorable Mayor, council members. I did deliver a letter today to each and every one of you. I don't know if you've actually had a chance to read it because I know you're busy, but I dropped it off hoping you may have read it because I wanted to detail things. I'm not going to go through all that now. I could actually read it because it would take less than 5 minutes, but I prefer if you just read it on your own. First of all, I want to thank you for the rent freeze because I believe that you did that knowing that renters need desperately some kind of relief. And I humbly hope that you extend it because we really do need relief. I've heard other people talk about, oh, they only go up 3%, oh, this, oh, there's plenty of buildings, this and that, but that certainly hasn't been our situation. Yukiko is our neighbor. We live in the same building. My husband and I and Yukiko are the original, I mean, not original, but we're the tenants who've lived there the longest. We've lived in our building for 29, 30 years. What happened is our landlord, the current landlord, he bought the building 12, 13 years ago. He made some improvements, and of course, he raised the rent to market rates. I understand that. I understand that a property owner, an investor, needs to make a return on their money. Otherwise, why would they bother investing? That's okay. There is a fine line, though, between a reasonable profit and beyond. As each unit has emptied in this building, there's 14 units, as each unit has vacated, the building was built in 1954 or 56, so it's 65, 67 years old. Yukiko's, Mrs. Yamagami, and our bathrooms are 65 years old, our kitchens are 65 years old, and you can imagine the ancient fixtures, the cracked tile, this, that, and the other. As each apartment has vacated over the years, the owner has gutted the kitchen, gutted the bathroom, and remodeled and upgraded very nicely, beautifully, put in nice hardwood floors, taken a downstairs coat closet and converted it to a half bath. So all of our neighbors, except for us, the 2 apartments, have modern kitchens, modern bathrooms, and 1.5 baths instead of 1. Fine, all well and good. But is it fair that we pay the same rent that those people pay when we have these ancient fixtures in bathrooms and kitchens? And she was just explaining how I know that your intention, because there's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and I don't know whether or not the landlord has violated the letter of the law by raising the rent 3 times in 6 months if you want to consider the 5% rent freeze, but he definitely violated the spirit of the law because your intention was to give us relief. And what he did was as soon as the rent freeze is over, if it's over in March, he raised the rent again. So not only has he raised it beyond what it was in October when he raised it $295 a month, which was 15.5%, but he raised it another $100. So I believe that's retaliation. I frankly believe he retaliated by raising our rent even further, which I don't think is lawful, and I think it's wrong. So I just want to say a couple more things, and then I'll be finished. One is, it's been commented before, all these luxury apartment buildings that are being built in Glendale. I mean, Central Avenue is full of them. They're all over the place. Maybe that's what's increasing the market rates and making us in older buildings pay what these newer buildings are forcing up the rents. In fact, and I'll say something else, when the landlord increased our rent back in October, in the 60-day notice, he included a handwritten note apologizing. He said, I'm sorry for the rent increase, but I have to go up to market rates. So he knew that that was an unfair increase, 15.5%. It just seems to me very, very wrong. So, one other thing, and then I'll step down. One of the gentlemen here was talking about how this boutique hotel proposal is going to generate income for the city. Well, apartments generate income for the city too. So even if you build apartments there, it'll still generate income for the city. And I do believe that we need more affordable housing. You've heard this many times tonight, but we definitely need more affordable housing in Glendale. We don't want to be forced out. We love this city. Yukiko was talking about the mountains, the mountains. There's not one day that goes by that I don't walk out my door and say, I love my neighborhood. You know, I don't want to leave. But if the rents keep going up, we're seniors. I have to work 3 days a week part-time to supplement our income. My husband and I are both going to be 70 in the spring, and I'm working 3 days a week to supplement Social Security. So we need some kind of help, if you could do something to either limit the amount of rent increases or limit the, how many times they can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Roseanne Calaba, followed by Brenda Dietling.
Good evening,
Good
Mayor,
evening, ma'am.
council members. I've been here many times. I'm against rent control. I lived in Glendale many years, never had all this going back and forth. The rent control is going to change Glendale, not for the good, no. But I can see these people too. But it doesn't, I don't know, doesn't affect me or my people. This is crazy. What is Glendale becoming? We don't need rent control. We ought to need just be human beings and deal with our people. They're extensions of our families. Money, I don't know. I think there's people taking advantage of lots of situations. There are people who do need help, and help, I am heartedly to give help, yes. But this fighting back and forth is just too much after all the millions of years I've been here, believe me, too much. This is not Glendale the way it was or should be, and never thought it's going to come up like this. No. We don't need rent control. We need human beings who know how to deal with each other. Rent control is not the answer. We need more affordable housing. Affordable housing, yes. More competition with the housing. That's it. Not this thing about subsidizing and socialism. We all worked hard for our money. Many, many, many years to get where we're going to be, where we are, or what's going to happen. We're all human. We all have the same things. But this aggravation or whatever, this situation is just not good for Glendale. It's not good for human beings. No, it's not. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calaba. Brenda Dietling, followed by Elizabeth Georgian.
Hi, good evening, Council,
Evening.
Mayor. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak here this evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of the safeguarding the Glendale Center Theater, that people from over 1,000 cities throughout the world, over 400 cities in California, come to the city of Glendale to see our shows. They have been coming here since 1947, when my son, sorry I would have come to speak earlier in front of City Council. I'm a single mom, and my sons are the great-grandsons of the founders of the Glendale Center Theater, Ruth and Nathan Hale, who came to Glendale in 1947 and started the Glendale Center Theater, one on Colorado, one on Doran. Then they went to the City Council and asked where they could move because they were running out of space and parking, and the City Council in the 1960s recommended that they move to the 300 block of Orange Street because Lot 6 was underutilized. Oh, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing if that was the same today, right? Anyway, so we're a destination. Our patrons actually spend more on the restaurants in the surrounding restaurants than they do on my $28 to $30 ticket to come see a show. The Glendale Center Theater is currently the longest family-owned, continuously owned and operated theater in the United States, not California, not the western half of the United States, but the whole United States. We're the longest continuously owned and family-operated theater. We're in the Guinness Book of World Records, and we actually have received recognition from every president since Kennedy. Again, I apologize for not coming sooner. Single mom, and I've been taking my notes here while I've been sitting here. For those of you not familiar with the Glendale Center Theater, again, it was started in 1947. Currently, my sons and I also own and operate Glendale Costumes. It's a 5,000 square foot facility over on Doran Street, and also a 5,000 square foot facility over on Garfield. And this year, we celebrate our 72nd year in Glendale. Okay, I covered that already. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. Which brings me to why I'm here today, to speak about the location at 324 North Orange Street. I'm not sure if the city is aware of what is going on next door at 328 North Orange Street. I'm not really sure what's going on. I've met with planning. I've spoken to the permit department. I can't really get a straight answer from anybody. I've been told there's 9 open permits. The jackhammering is so loud, my employees complain of headaches. My building is cracking. It's a wood brick building. Again, that Grandma and Grandpa went to a bank and got a loan. There was no AEA funding back then, and they took out every penny they had and put it into that building. So I have a passion for that brick building over on Orange Street. I just humbly urge the City Council to possibly look into what is going on there and how it could adversely affect my patrons and my business at Glendale Center Theater. We have a shared wall in common, and I was told it could possibly be a restaurant. I was told, I don't know, I was told their kitchen, but then they can't have more than 8 patrons sitting down, but then they were only given a 5-car variance. But how is that possible when you have employees that are obviously going to work there? They're going to drive more than 5 cars, and then where their patrons, how are they going to get in there if there's no car variance? It's just, I know I'm blonde, but I'm really trying to figure out what is going on in that building and what is, how it's going to adversely affect the Glendale Center Theater. The construction noise was so loud today. That's why I came here today. The jackhammering was so loud. You could hear it out on Orange Street, and it was going on in the alley in the back of the building. It was shaking my building. Had I had a show being performed today, I would have had to refund from 100 to 350 people with their tickets because they would have wanted their money back, which I have had that happen with patrons. We never thought of it when the apartment buildings went in. We were, pro-growth and think, oh, this is wonderful. These people could possibly be patrons in the future and come see shows like Manhattan. You walk to live theater, but the trash trucks, it's just really a lot of noise. The beep, 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 beep. And that's what very concerns me so much, is if they do allow some type of restaurant to go in next door. We have trash issues already. When Bob Yosefian and Ginger Brumberg and Dave Weaver were on the council, they put in the trash enclosures. I was given one because we've been there since 1963. I don't even have a trash dumpster anymore. I'm given like little brown things that I have to put my trash in. I usually throw it in the back of my truck with my 17-year-old son, and we take it over to our Dorn facility at about 11 o'clock at night after our patrons have left the building. So I don't know. I just think if the city could, I just humbly request that you possibly look into what is going on at 328 North Orange, and hopefully you'll also have a place in your heart for the Glendale Center Theater, and you'll want to safeguard it so that it stays here in Glendale another 4 generations. My sons are the 4th generation owners, and again, we just took over full operation of the theater. My sons and I did as of January 1st, so I apologize for not coming here sooner. I've just been overwhelmed this last year.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Can we ask, do we know what's going on? It used to be a health aids
Yes.
and
They're
medical supplies, right, that's close, yeah.
There is some construction going on. I believe the initial proposal was for food use. I know that we've had our concierge in touch with Ms. Dietlein. The report that I have gotten back is that, yes, they are doing according to permit, according to code, but I will ask again that our concierge get in touch with her and make sure that everyone understands how this is supposed to work.
Great, because that theater is a jewel in our community. I know I've enjoyed many, many productions there, so we want to make sure that you stay there.
Okay, thank you. Last speaker, Elizabeth Gerohian. Elizabeth, I'm sorry? George, well, I'm sorry, maybe it is Georgian. Sorry. Georgian or Georgian? Yes. Is that you? Please, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Elizabeth Georgian. I'm renting an apartment in Glendale, city of Glendale. I'm doctor of chiropractic, and I'm an RN, and I'm a professor, and I am a teacher. I'm a mother, and I am a grandmother, or of this in one. Me, 75 years old, resident of city of Glendale. Never been in this environment. Very interesting, and I'm very glad you gave me the opportunity to listen to other people. And I took some notes, and I want to bring my contribution to development of this town, because I am resident for 13 years. And today, I found that I am at the end of the suffering to rent and to deal with a landlord that breaks the law, definitely breaks the law. It's proven. The neighborhood services, I talked with Mr. John Brownwell today from neighborhood services, and I told him about the raising the rent at the time when supposed the rent to be freeze. He raised 2 times. And what about they break the law? Can city, can you, people responsible, that's we people voted for you because we trust you, we have confidence in you. This is why I'm here, because I still have confidence. When I lose confidence, I just go out and I write books about losing the confidence of the people we are voting. But I'm not at the point of that. I'm very confident of myself also. And I have several issues. One is people who are here and talk about their pain and suffering. Who cares? It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart more listening to them, to their sufferings, rather than my suffering. I am the one to suffer, but I see they suffer a lot and they don't find any help. And the result is despair. What people do when they are despair? I'm sorry, getting emotional. I'm getting back at myself. I got in too much into other people's suffering. Because probably my profession is in that way, to get involved with other people, to take care of other people, more than I probably take care of myself. There is a lot of pain and suffering. Start with that. There is cancer in this town, with some reason, and you can do something. Asbestos law. Is there such a thing about asbestos law? Asbestos to be removed from the ceiling that's dropping flakes, and people breathe in, go to the lungs, and have cancer. Even non-smoker can get cancer. Even though one of you go into the room with that flakes, you even don't know when you breathe in and those flakes go into the lungs. And that slowly, or rapidly, go to the cancer and people die. And people don't know why they die. And this is why. I am living in this kind of apartment. I requested this to be removed and was refused. There's no law about that. But there is a law, actually. I found that. I found that is a law in the case is open and you can breathe in. What can be more open than the ceiling that's open? And breathe in always, day and night. I request, please, make the law to be removed. All the ceilings, the building was built in 1968. And at that time probably was not such a law. But at that time, nobody knew that produce cancer. My time is up? Oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't go to the point. Is anybody who can give my space, offer my space, or is not allowed to?
You know, if
I finished
you
it,
have,
or
I'll
they
give you a
didn't
little
finish?
more time. Just finish your comments.
I didn't finish to say the issue.
Okay, just take 30 more seconds
May
to
I,
finish your
please?
issue.
No, okay, if you,
No,
I
no,
know this is if I'm
it's
not
okay.
allowed.
Take a little more time, but finish your issue.
I can't hear.
If you would like to speak for 30 more seconds,
Yes,
go ahead.
Please.
3 more seconds?
30 more seconds.
30 more seconds, I really appreciate very much. So, I am here to help the city of Glendale to develop, to go up, to go higher. I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to work out. That time, this building got the permit for the asbestos that produce cancer. The permit when the sink, can you put it here on the wall? That somebody,
Can't do that
it's
now.
not needed?
So
Okay,
complete
too
your
fast.
comments, yeah.
I have to be fast. All right. I live in the first floor. I experienced 2 times heavy flooding, where, with the most misery from the upstairs people toilet, you know what it is? All the misery, all bacteria and viruses, everything what somebody needs to die in city of Glendale. And what finally they found that to solve somehow a problem, that one of the manager sent a letter to everybody, to all the tenants. We have been experiencing some problems with backup sinks due to food being thrown in the garbage disposal. So, when I rented this apartment, nobody told me that there is a problem with the garbage disposal. With this, what is the point here? I want to be a law about that. Landlord's supposed to inform the tenant in the tenancy agreement that we agree, you agree with that. You do not you're not supposed to throw the food in the garbage disposal.
Ms. Judge,
I'm up with that too.
Please complete your comments, because we're now in the 7th, 8th.
All right.
What do you want us to do?
Just three sentences, may please.
Okay,
Three
3 sentences, please.
Relation between neighborhood services, that's absolutely zero, and city of Beverly Hills, they don't have neighborhood services, and they function superior to us. Waste of money. They told me when I talked with them, that is the city budget. You have to be careful with the city budget. A city budget, where is that? Our money and the neighborhood services do not help. Health and Safety Department, Engineering Department. These 2 departments, I would like to take care of people, renters in city of Glendale. Instead of neighborhood services, they are not specialized. They are not nurses, they are not doctors, they are not engineers. They know nothing. Why do you spend money?
Ms. Jurgen, we appreciate your
really
comments.
Appreciate your,
Thank you so
you give
much.
me the time,
We have
and
someone
I
address
apologize for
Thank you.
asking.
Thank you.
more.
Neighborhood Services, can you talk to Ms. Jurgen and see what this is about?
Yes, we have their card and
Yes,
contacts
you
for
can talk
Austin,
to
too.
him on the site, yeah. Okay, I think those are all the comments we have today, and...
Couple of comments.
Of course, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank all of you for being here today and voicing your opinion and staying at the end of the meeting, because it's important for us to hear all the problems. And what you mentioned today, we heard it for many, many, many years. This is an ongoing situation. So it's not the council is not doing anything or doesn't want to do anything. Most of our family members, our friends, our parents are in the same situation. So The right to lease ordinance is going to address many of the concerns that was raised today. The number of times that the rents were increased in 5-6 months will give the tenants, the landlords will offer the tenants a 1-year lease. So if they increase the rent once, they cannot increase it for another 12 months. If the new purchasers come in and purchase a building, they cannot increase the rent for 12 months from the last increase. So if I want to sell my building to you, I cannot jack up the rent, sell it to you, you come in and jack up the rent again. So we are working really hard on this issue. We really care, and hopefully we can. I don't think we can ever solve this housing crisis that's going on in the state of California, but in the city of Glendale, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to address many of the issues that's out there. And I think right to lease ordinance will do that. It's coming up hopefully beginning of the next month. And I want to ask you to please participate at that time so you can hear what's going on and what the council is doing. And again, we want to hear from you. And I want to thank you for staying until the end of the meeting to hear some of the comments that we have to make. Usually we don't go back and forth. We don't have a conversation when there's a public speakers at that moment because it doesn't mean that we don't care. We don't want to talk to you, but this is the rule. There's not a two-way conversation when public comes in and at oral communication and voice their opinion. So with that, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Najarian, did you have something?
I have new business.
Oh, there we
If we're
go.
at that stage of the meeting.
Sure, let's do that.
Mayor, I move that the city attorney and outside counsel are hereby authorized to file a petition for review of the State of California Court of Appeal decision in the matter of Glendale Coalition for Better Government Incorporated versus City of Glendale, Court of Appeal case number B252410, Los Angeles County Superior Court case number BS153253, before the Supreme Court of the State of California.
Do we have a second?
Second.
May we have the roll call, please?
Councilmembers Agajanian?
No.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Sinanian?
Yes. Any other new business? Motion to
To
adjourn
adjourn.
in the memory of James Patrick Durness and Joe Ivazi.
Second.
Thank you.
Wait, whose motion was it?
I believe it was for Councilmember Najarian moved to adjourn, seconded by.
And we are adjourned at 8:07 PM. Thank you, everyone.